Here we go, guys. Our culture is eating itself. Video by Solar Sands.
The Ouroboros is an ancient symbol eating its own tail. There are many interpretations of it. One is the endless cycle of nature. Another is renewal. As the snake eats more of its back, the fresh front, but the
You guys jealous, chat? You jealous? You jealous of the snake's flexibility?
most literal is destruction. The snake will eventually eat itself. This is the worst era in film history.
True.
I don't mean financially.
So true.
I haven't run the numbers. I don't know if there are more flops than usual. I don't mean critically. I don't know if movies are getting more bad reviews than in prior eras. I mean
just boring.
Artistically.
Yep.
Artistically, we are in the worst era in film history.
So true.
My reasoning for this claim is simple.
That's why China is making all the good games now, man. Like, you look at the games from China, you're like, holy shit, what the fuck? What is that? You know, like...
For the past 10 years, mainstream culture has been inundated with terrible movies. Lacking in vision, mired with problem after problem, shackled to nostalgia without substance or care for what made those original nostalgic movies good in the first place. And they are now trying to deny the sacredness of death.
Well,
Yes,
not only that, like, not only do they, like, keep reusing stuff from before, they actively seek out to make it worse. They, like, want to take, like, your memories of, like, all the old stuff and trash it.
Me right. Deny the sacredness of death. You've heard the opinion, there's too many remakes and sequels these days, so much that it's become cliche. The more accurate problem is that there's too many bad remakes and sequels these days. I doubt many people
Like
would be
almost all
complaining
bad.
if all these franchise editions were good. However, I also don't think a landscape filled with remakes and sequels and little else is likely to be good. You may say, well, hang on, that's just the super mainstream. What about all these original indie and low-budget films coming out? And I will retort, those are good to have, but mainstream culture is important. It's where the most money is.
Yep.
It's what gets the most eyeballs. I think it says something about us, and it says something about the creative limitations of some of our most paid artists, that mainstream culture is so derivative right now. We are in an age of not just copies, but bad copies, and I intend to watch it all burn to the ground. The Star Wars franchise has got to be the most
You know what's a really good show that's out right now? If you guys like are looking, honestly, anime probably has the most gems out of like things nowadays. Like Frieren is really good. Like I think Frieren is like a masterpiece.
analyzed franchise in
And
the
it had a bad arc, but you know, whatever. We can't all be perfect.
21st century. The Star Wars sequel trilogy
It wasn't even that bad. Arc wasn't even that bad. It was okay.
has been critiqued possibly more than any other franchise edition in history, even
That's
more
terrible.
than the infamous prequel trilogy that came before it.
God, dude, doesn't the new one make the prequel like look pretty good? Honestly, like I think of the prequels now, and I'm like, it wasn't that bad. It was okay. Like,
I won't belabor this point,
yeah.
because you've heard it a lot. The sequel trilogy, and a vast majority of Star Wars media under Disney, is heavily flawed. And this is not something that is simply my personal opinion. Watch the entirety of the original 3 Star Wars movies and count things that are mistakes. Objective mistakes. A stormtrooper in the background hitting his head on a door, or Luke kicking too far from an actor to look like it connected. But what about coincidences or contrivances in the plot? Take the sequence where
Yeah, I don't really care about like execution errors like that. It's not too bad. It's more like the story. The way I think of it is like when you watch Star Wars, you feel hopeful and you're like, wow, this is so cool. Like, I love this. I hope he saves the world. You have like this kind of hopeful feeling when you watch like the old Star Wars. And you watch the new one, you're just like, this is just like so full of hate. You know, like this is freaking like, what is this? Like, what's happening?
Luke gets more and more of his friends captured in Jabba's palace in an attempt to rescue Han Solo. If you really analyze this plan, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And if you tallied up these problems across the entire original trilogy, at the upper end, you'd probably have 100 problems. Some big, some small, which by no means is unusual when creating a large and complicated fictional story
It's hard,
and
man.
world. When you get to the prequel trilogy, these problems become more numerous and more severe. Why do the Jedi use Force Run once and never again? Why does Obi-Wan smash through a window to latch onto this drone when he could easily plummet to his death? Why isn't this assassination drone built to self-destruct so no one can track it back? I know Obi-Wan is a Jedi, but this is downright suicidal. How is an electrified spear thrown very hard capable of shattering Star Cruiser windows?
Yep.
But I think the worst of the prequel's flaws have to do with the characters. Like how Anakin Skywalker goes from being tempted to the dark side and maiming someone to defend another, to slaughtering innocent children in mere minutes. Or how Obi-Wan leaves Anakin to brutally die. What compounds problems like these is that the prequels affect the continuity of the original trilogy. Across all the prequels, I would estimate there may be 1,000 problems. Some big, some small. Which is a lot. Again, these are estimates. The exact number doesn't matter too much.
Anakin's such a baby.
Is that from trilogy to trilogy, these problems
Well, like, the thing is like, you knew that Anakin was gonna become bad. Like, you knew that, right?
increase in quantity dramatically. And when I talk about problems, I'm not talking about stilted acting or whether I have an emotional connection to the films. I'm talking about things that don't logically follow. Errors that
Wait, was this? I don't even remember this. Was this a thing?
I'm talking
They had a freaking shrimpo? They had a flash step the whole time. They have a
stilted
forced
acting,
flash
or
step?
whether I have an emotional connection to the films. I'm talking
Wait, like, that's real? Holy fuck. Did they at least get really tired after this? Dude, I'm sorry. I haven't seen this since I was a kid. Do they get, like, really tired after they use this? Or, like, some kind of, like, mana use or something? Like, they don't? That's so bad. That's so world-breaking, you know?
about things that don't logically follow. Errors that may not be noticed by the audience at first, but are nonetheless still there and tend to damage the work upon further
It destroys, like, the
contemplation.
world, the
And
setting.
if fixed, would make that piece of media better. When you get to the sequel trilogy, across all 3 films, I estimate there are thousands of problems.
Hold on, what?
A knife is painted out of the background to keep Rey from dying during a fight.
Oh, yeah.
The half-sunken wreckage of the Death Star is used as a marker for a knife map that can only work while standing at a specific point on the landscape while pointed at a specific part of the wreckage.
Holy fuck.
All of this while ignoring the fact this wreckage should not exist in huge pieces like this anyway. Kylo Ren's TIE fighter gets damaged, rolls across the desert at 200 miles per hour, and explodes. He walks out of it perfectly fine moments later.
Force
Even if you like these
powers.
films, you have to admit these moments do not work. They cannot function in a coherent story.
Every like little bit of this kind of stuff removes like your suspension of disbelief. And like the more egregious it is, like the more it pulls you out of it and you're like, wait a minute, like what the fuck? That doesn't make any sense. And you get taken out of the fantasy, right? What's so good about like a movie or a game or an anime is like when you watch it, you're like gripped by it and you're like stuck in your chair and you're like watching it and you're like, I want to know what happens next. You like feel so immersed in the moment, right? But sometimes, like when like for instance, like this happened to me with Sword Art Online. It was like so ridiculously retarded that like I kept getting pulled out of it. Like I'm like watching, I'm like, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. And I get pulled out of it, and like I have to like talk to my mom and be like, Mommy, did you fucking see that? Like what the hell, right?
Films would be better without these problems. Yet these films are riddled with them. It is rare.
I mean, there are children that are amused by peekaboo. Oh, you're there. Hi, guys. You like Star Wars? Oh, blah, 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 blah. Oh, blah, 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 blah. Oh, blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah.
Any given scene cannot have a problem within it. And what compounds problems like these are how they affect the original
There is going to be a
and
Sword Art
prequel
Online
trilogies.
announcement on the
Force
7th.
Awakens
There
was
is, yeah, there
hugely
is.
influential
There's like
on the
a
film
new
industry in
Sword Art
ways we have
Online.
only recently begun
Okay, I watched Gun Gale and it was okay. It was pretty good. I liked a lot of things about it.
to comprehend. Much of the teasing in the movie and trailer is echoed in sequels of similar franchise giants. The Force Awakens rehashes the general plot structure, themes, and iconography of A New Hope, which satisfied most people at the time, but in hindsight, the film had very little substance in itself. Beyond a few concepts,
I remember getting through the very first Star Wars movie, this one, whatever this one was, the first one. I got through this one and I remember thinking like, kind of weird, but like fine, right? Like maybe it'll get better. And dude, each time it just slowly got worse, you know?
of concepts, it
Hey,
had
look
no
at
merits
you,
that
pretty
stood on
girl.
their own. The Last Jedi also borrows iconography and themes of The Empire Strikes Back, such as the rebels being scattered and hunted throughout the film. But you're left wondering why the resistance, which should be in power, is being chased and outgunned by those who shouldn't have an overwhelming force?
Yup.
Sure, there are plenty of original ideas in the film too, but they only seek to cut short plot lines that had been established in The Force Awakens. And finally, you have the rise of Skywalker, which is so blatant in its borrowing that it resurrects a villain from the original trilogy who exploded twice. Throughout the whole sequel trilogy, even things like spaceships are simply original trilogy ships but painted black, or soft reboots of original trilogy ships. To
be fair, the original trilogy ships are all really fucking cool.
There is no changing of the power dynamics in the galaxy. There is no change in the strategies or behaviors of the warring factions from the decades before. And even though they tease us with potential ideas, there is no change in how we understand the villains or the heroes. After the conclusion of this trilogy, it became blatantly obvious that they had no overarching plan. You don't end up with this many.
They don't know what makes Star Wars good. They basically unearthed. They had the holy relic in their hand, and they didn't know what made it good. They had no clue, and all they could do is just emulate it.
Problems within a trilogy because of a few slip-ups. Your priorities have to be seriously out of whack from the very beginning. There was clearly a lack of communication between teams, a lack of time, a lack of care. From the very beginning, Disney wanted to recapture the magic, feel, and success of the original trilogy.
Dude, this happens so many times, man. Happens to everything. You see this happening in gaming as well, where people inherit a legacy. And they're like, I know better than you, Dad. I'm going to make a better one. I know what I'm doing. They have that kind of disrespectful attitude towards the legacy that they inherited. And then they just shit all over it. Honestly, now that I think about it, I think that's the problem with everything in the world. That's the problem with literally everything. Is inheriting a legacy and then just shitting on it because you think that you can make a better version of it. Video games, movies, the country, holy fuck, man.
But the whole world is like that. Skills, vision, or originality to do that. If they did just rehash the original trilogy, it might have done okay. The problem is the sequel trilogy isn't just a copy of the original trilogy, it's a bad copy. All they could do was chew up what they had.
No, it's not even that. That's not even that is only one part of it. The fact that if it was just a bad copy, I think it would be bad, but it wouldn't be sacrilege. Look at me, guys. I can talk about sacrilege, okay? But what makes the new Star Wars so vile, it's actively malicious towards the original work. It's not only does it think, oh, we can do a better job, it actively seeks to drag out the original work and murder it out back. Destroy everything. Oh, you thought Luke Skywalker was a great hero? Actually, he's a piece of shit. Also, Han Solo, also piece of shit father. All of these people were all pieces of shit. And you like them? You like them? Look at them now. They're fucking trash. You know what I mean? The Powerpuff Girls remake tried to do that too, remember? We were talking about the Powerpuff Girls remake a couple weeks ago. Bubbles is Bubbles is a whore now that tries to sell merch on the street, and she's a bitch, right? It's what the fuck? You know what I mean? What? They try to take everything that you love and destroy it and build it up from scratch as their own. This is literally culture appropriation, actually.
And spit it back out.
It's so bad.
In the Ahsoka TV series, based off of a character in the animated Star Wars The Clone Wars series, they have to bring back Hayden Christensen's Anakin Skywalker. They have to tease us with Darth Vader. In the Book of Boba Fett, they have to bring back Cad Bane, one of the coolest characters in the animated Clone Wars, just to kill him off after a couple of scenes.
You see what I mean? It's actively malicious. They want to take everything good and beautiful and wonderful in this world and turn it into dust. Why do you think the activists target priceless art and they do their best to destroy them, right? They like go to museums, throw soup on them, cut them up with a knife. Why do you think that shit happens? It's because they fucking hate it. They hate everything they hate like the beauty of like what once was and all of the things that came before them because they can't fucking stand up to it. They can't meet the expectations, so they have to tear it down.
Truly baffling, they put in the effort to bring in this character in live action just to unceremoniously end his story forever. At the end of the Han Solo film, they have to tease us with Darth Maul of all people. I just remembered this. At the end of Obi-Wan, they tease us with Force Ghost Qui-Gon Jinn. Even in The Acolyte, despite how terrible it is a show with 90% brand new, never before seen or referenced characters. But still, it has to have a Sith with a black spooky mask and unconventional red lightsaber, and has to tease us at the very end with Darth Plagueis and Yoda. They cannot help themselves. Could Star Wars TV shows utilize these existing characters to enhance—
Who's still falling for this bait, by the way? Like, is anyone still falling for this? I saw, like, guys, I was like a huge Star Wars fan when I was a little kid, and like I haven't watched anything since the new trilogy I watched. I was like, fucking, I'm done. You know what I mean? Like, I'm done, dude. Like new Star Wars comes out, I sleep. China releases a new game, real shit. You know, like, how did this happen?
Their stories? Yes. Will they ever use them as anything else than as a crutch to prop up their own terrible scripts with memories of better things? No.
Andor was good.
That's all.
Yeah, I heard a lot of people say that Andor was good. I might check it out.
That's all they'll ever do. Andor is their one good show.
Oh, there we go.
All right. Miles ahead of these other shows, and it doesn't have.
I liked Rogue One. You guys remember? Was it Rogue One? Rogue One, was that the one where it was like, it took place like in the same timeline? It was like right before it was before the original trilogy. Was that Rogue One? That one was really good. Dude, that was a good movie. I liked it. I liked how they cock blocked it at the entire time, the romance. They're like, oh, they're gonna get together. Like, oh, they're gonna get together. That was so funny, dude. Rogue One, yeah, I liked it. I liked Rogue One.
Silly character teases. The only thing against it is that it's slower. The original Star Wars was a product of multiple influences reforged into one work from a genuine artist during a time where innovation was necessary. I don't think Disney in its current form is capable of replicating
it's
that
because
right now.
Disney axed the
Star Wars
expanded universe in order to reuse ideas instead of using source material or come up with original concepts.
Well, I mean, I think I've explained why that's the case. It's because it's not that they want to make something good. That's like a byproduct of like if what they make is good, that's a byproduct of their real mission. Do you see what I mean? They don't, whether or not it's good is irrelevant to them. What matters is that like, it's ours. We took it and like, it's ours now. And all the other people just have to like deal with it.
And now
that's why they go back in time and they character assassinate like one by one. They line up all your favorite characters and they execute them one by one. And they're like, this guy's a shit character, dead. This guy's a shit character, dead. You remember this guy that you really liked when you were a kid? Dead.
Has significantly more movies and shows that are bad and forgettable than it does movies and shows which are good and special. Disney has diluted the brand and its identity. In the trailer for The Skeleton Crew, we see alien environments that don't feel alien. There are aliens walking alien pets, aliens going to school, taking tests, and wearing backpacks. Aliens walking down concrete roads and sidewalks that go to homes with pitched roofs. This isn't a Star Wars neighborhood. This is a Disney Channel original movie suburb with a coat of paint. It speaks to such a lack of imagination. As long as artists are making things that are only references to their own brand, that are only inspired by this incest of ideation, I don't think we're going to get good movies, let alone worthy sequels. When you look at the recent Marvel movies and TV shows, they are also riddled with problems just like this.
It's just anime, guys. It's just anime. Leaf is bitter? Yeah, I am bitter because they took everything from my childhood and fucked it up.
Endgame, they spend a good chunk of the movie simply revisiting Marvel's greatest hits in the form of—
I'm not easily entertained, Tazuto. I'm not. That's the truth. I mean, I just am not.
Time travel. Spider-Man No Way Home is a better movie than you'd expect, but it does rub me the wrong way how they have to bring back Sam Raimi's villains and previous iterations of Spider-Man in this convoluted way. At least the film has the balls to rehandle characters in previous films that were not well received, but I fear Hollywood learned the wrong lessons from the success of this movie.
Gladiator 2? Oh man, dude. Gladiator 1 was so good. I don't even know how you make a Gladiator 2. Like, how do you continue that story?
Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness was the last Marvel project I ever saw in theaters, and it was so bad it gave me a headache by the time it was over. Besides constantly not making sense, and fundamentally not understanding what infinity actually means.
Thanks for the follow,
For some reason, bring in recognizable characters such as Professor X, played by the Patrick Stewart, Mr. Fantastic, played by John Krasinski, Captain Carter...
Wait, what? Wait.
The Patrick Stewart, Mr. Fantastic...
Wait, Mr. Fantastic is played by...
played by John Krasinski, Captain Carter, Captain Marvel, and Black Bolt. Just to 5 minutes later, kill them all violently, in the dumbest ways possible, because Wanda wants to be with her imaginary kids. It's baffling. When you look at the Rings of Power series, it's also riddled with problems and callbacks.
I haven't seen Rings of Power, but everyone told me not to watch it. Are they wrong? Should I watch Rings of Power? Everyone said don't watch it. It says a waste of my time.
When you look at Deadpool and the Wolverine, it's riddled with problems and callbacks. Alien Romulus is riddled with problems and callbacks.
Get away from her, you bitch!
Get away from her, you bitch.
Oh god, I haven't even mentioned all the Jurassic World films, all the new Terminator sequels, Wonder Woman 1984, Matrix Resurrections, yet another old Indiana Jones, ever since 2015.
I heard they fucked up, so like one of my friends, their favorite like book series was called Wheel of Time. And I remember when they were like, oh, they're gonna make a Wheel of Time series. They were like super excited. They were like, oh man, like great. I love Wheel of Time. And then it came out and then I remember they were just like, they're just so fucking mad, dude. They're so mad. Yeah.
15. There's not just been a bunch of sequels released every year, but there has been at least one infamous sequel released every single year. The year before that, Dumb and Dumber 2 was released, which I saw, but I don't think anyone remembers. All I can recall is how gross and old.
You guys remember freaking Bad Santa 2? Bad Santa 2 was okay, actually. It was okay. Bad Santa is my favorite Christmas movie. I watch it every year. In fact, we should watch it again this year. But I watch it every year, and they came up with like a sequel, and it was like really weird because like the kid was like an adult now, but it was great. I liked it.
That Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels looked. What actually happened in that movie? Wait, the United States Department of Justice charged that money used to produce the film was stolen from a Malaysian government investment fund.
Wait, what?
Huh, learn something new every day. If you look at the announcements for Disney movies, it is bleak. At D23, 4
Holy fuck.
out of the 17 films are not sequels or remakes, and only 3 are seemingly original. If you look further into the future, it does not get much better. People would probably not be worried about the state of entertainment if most of these sequels were stellar, but there are signs most of these are going to be awful. The Snow White remake, ludicrously expensive, has been hit with controversy after controversy, and a 1-year delay. The Toy Story franchise concluded well with the third one and has no idea where to go. The Lion King remake...
Yeah, where does 5 go? Where do you even go with 5 after 3? Even 4 was kind of like, why?
Does not have the writing or nostalgia of the original Lion King to use as a crutch. Nearly every Marvel project since Endgame has been a disaster. Incredibles 2 did not live up to the original, and frankly, I don't think Disney has the teeth to ever make a good Incredibles film. Is it possible these projects could turn out well? Yes. Is it likely? No. A landscape of purely derivative art is not healthy for creative minds.
I used to think there were no bad ideas, only bad executions. Now, I'm not so sure about this.
The existence of a live-action Harold and the Purple Crayon movie is hilarious on the face
Wait, what
of
is
it.
it? What is this?
An animated film adapting Harold would have plenty of potential, but a live-action film seems... Maybe I'm being dramatic here.
That's a little baby child.
Have plenty of potential, but a live-action
That's a man-child. I guess relatable, modern audiences.
film seems... Maybe I'm being dramatic here. Kind of impossible to be good. The appeal of the children's book is that it's a story about someone creating their own world through drawing. Everything he does in the book is two-dimensional and simplified. There's a visual joke where Harold shakes his crayon and unintentionally creates wavy water that he falls into. And they animate this. In fact, they fully animate the first 5 minutes of the film, just to pivot to the real world. Why? If you have to have live action, why not do it Roger Rabbit style and have 2D animation interact with the real world? Making this cute toddler into a grown man and then putting him
It might be funny.
into the boring, already made real world that spawns glossy, hyper-realistic objects out of his drawings instead of taking the obvious path and creating an animated 2D film is just a bad idea. While we're on children's books,
He's a fucking Disney adult. He has a fucking season. He has an annual pass to Disneyland.
Giving Tree feature-length movie would be a bad idea. And I know damn well a producer has looked at the Giving Tree sales numbers and thought about it. The book is so concise in its message and purposefully leaves out a lot of information to convey its message that there is very little you can add to it without actively undermining it. A typical Hollywood screenwriter would probably expand on the boy's life or give the tree more to do in the story, and God forbid we'd have a bunch of scenes like this. Come boy, come, swing from my branches and play in my shade. Did that tree just... That's a talking tree! I must be going crazy! Is it possible for a Giving Tree movie to be made that's good? But it would have to be very creative in its storytelling. So unusual and new in a way I can't even fathom, and I think that's very unlikely to happen. Furthermore, is it possible for a Giving Tree movie to be made that's even better than the book? I say that's damn near impossible without just making your own original story. This is what makes the Joker movie kind of an oddity. The Joker is a decent movie about mental illness and living in a culture lacking in empathy.
I like the Joker
that is
movie.
Only tenuously connected to the DC universe.
Should I watch Joker 2? Because I really like this one. I liked the first one, so that means I'll like the second one, right? Right, guys? No. What are you saying no?
It's a Trojan horse movie, sneaking in an original story into something masquerading as a DC supervillain film. After Joker's success, I was kind of expecting more original stories with big franchise paint on them, but I can't recall any more examples like this. The Lego Movie is a film that you would not expect to be good, but surprisingly is. I owe most of its success to two things: prioritizing creating an enjoyable story before trying to sell its product, and treating the property
I like the Lego
with
movie.
sincerity.
I actually watched it.
The
It was
film
pretty
really
good.
ties everything together by connecting it to the real world at the end, yes, but only as a way to emphasize what the purpose of a buildable toy like Lego is at its core. The Super Mario Bros. Movie is
I like that
possibly
movie too.
the most generic and safe kids movie I
liked
have
it.
ever seen.
I liked it though.
I'm not talking about the original, which is the opposite of that. If you saw the trailer, yeah, that's the movie. There is not a single thing.
Yeah, it was
in this
okay
film
though.
that
It
will
wasn't
surprise
bad.
you.
You know what though? The fact that it was okay and wasn't like trying too hard to be like modern made it already a lot like significantly better than like everything else.
However, it's not bad. It's nice. It's fine. This film was very well received, and I believe that's because the story was not insulting and the movie treats the Mushroom Kingdom with awe and sincerity. A lesser film might be irritatingly sarcastic.
Aren't they making a Legend of Zelda movie? I thought I heard that they were making one.
Mock the whole idea of platforming and power-ups. But because this film is faithful and interprets these video game ideas sincerely, people are more charitable to the film than it probably deserves. Judging by the trailer, the Minecraft movie is going to be profoundly mediocre. I can just feel it, dripping with insincerity. Oh, the main character you play as in the game is named
Looks like fucking Concord.
Steve. How stupid is that? I'm gonna roll my eyes.
These are all Concord characters.
Such a tool bag.
Look at the animals and how derpy they look. Wow, the world is made of blocks. Isn't that weird? Isn't that just heckin' crazy?
What the hell?
You don't have to place things right on the crafting table to craft. Who cares? I hope this trailer is just really misleading because it depresses me that no matter what happens, it's still going
Is this out? Is this movie out yet?
to make $1 billion. Right in the middle of editing this,
In
the trailer for the
B4LX
Electric
Cool
State
Use
movie,
Me Princess.
based off of Simon Stollenhag's graphic novel, was released, and I am actually kind of shocked at how generic it looks. This trailer is pure slop. More AAA list actors we know are not going to play actual characters. Looks like we're getting another Gus Fring. How do you take such atmospheric artwork and turn it into this?
Who throws a fridge?
Shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up. I have never seen anyone turn something so silent and somber into pure,
You know what was
loud
really interesting though? Have you guys seen the short films from was it like Black Mirror and that robot, whatever the hell one? Like those were pretty interesting. Like short films. I kind of like them.
Marvel action crap. Oh my god. Talk about not understanding
Yeah, that one. Love, Death, and Robots and like Black Mirror. Like those ones have like pretty interesting like short stories, I think.
what you're adapting.
Yeah.
The key
They were
to
really
making
creative.
work based on an existing non-film property is sincerity. Treating the thing you're adapting seriously and understanding it on its own merits. And if you understand it on its own merits, you'll understand that the typical fictional character enters the real world or vice versa plot, and treating a property like any other property isn't going to cut it for most things. You're going to have to be unconventional. You're going to have to work by and understand the rules of that cultural artifact, or else you're just taking something in our culture and reheating it for the masses.
Yep. You want to know one that is a little bit of a I don't know if it's a popular take. People might not like it, but I actually thought the Dungeons and Dragons movie was okay. I thought it was very fun to watch. Person that DMs a lot of like tabletop. A lot of it was like really snarky in a way that you're like, man, I could see players doing that. I really liked it.
Most Disney live-action remakes are financially successful. You should find this to be an immensely sobering fact. The Lion King remake is bad. I knew it was going to be bad from the first trailer. The Aladdin remake is bad. I knew it was going to be bad when I first saw Will Smith's Blue Mug. The Lilo and Stitch movie is going to be bad. The Hercules remake is going to be bad. The Moana
Holy
remake
fuck, they just
is
keep
going to be
remaking everything.
bad.
Oh
Not a
my
single
god.
one of them has been worthwhile.
They're like, let's go back into the past and like, you guys remember like all those like good movies we used to make? Let's just fucking do that again.
So why does
Bro.
anyone expect the next one to be good? I
What
attribute
the
the
fuck?
success of these films solely to the fact it's a recognizable property done up in a new coat of paint. Something you've seen before, but with added spectacle. I can moan and groan about Hollywood's lack of originality and artistic drive, but people, regular, common people, continue to pay for these movies. We're paying for our culture to be cannibalized. What the general public needs to realize is these remakes aren't just copies, they're bad copies. Just look at YMS's video on the Lion King remake to see that this remake is demonstrably worse than the beloved classic it's trying to imitate in seemingly every way. From the animation to the music to the voice acting to the story itself. I expected the Aladdin 2019 remake to be just below average. I was genuinely surprised to discover it is a film worse than its original in every conceivable way. The film is gray, ugly, and bloated beyond belief. You feel that extra 30 minutes.
Yikes.
There were about 2 tiny additions I liked, a bunch of things that made no difference, and a whole lot of things that made the story actively worse. To name just 2, the added songs sung by Jasmine are completely forgettable. And the second one literally pauses the universe of the movie in the middle of a scene to be sung. It's the most jarring thing I've ever seen in a musical. Abu touches treasure in the Cave of Wonders. The cave where you're explicitly not supposed to touch any treasure. Not the gem that comes later that causes the cave to collapse. Literally before
That's
that.
true.
And it doesn't cave in or spew lava. Aladdin walks on all these coins, getting to the lamp. He's touching treasure. They didn't have to put these coins here. Guess which version didn't put treasure on major walkways? If you think this is it, no, there's so much more. The mistakes in this film compound on themselves so much, I need half the video to explain them. Disney could have had Will Smith.
The thing is, again, it's like you said earlier, it's inevitable to have like small errors and like small plot holes. Like it's kind of hard to be absolutely perfect, but like a lot of these seem like very, very avoidable mistakes.
Play a fresh interpretation of the genie, which he does sparingly. but for the most part, they had
You ever watch Gamers or Directors? I have not, Savvy.
no confidence in themselves. So I'm sure they spent $1 million and thousands of VFX dungeon hours just to make Will Smith blue, and make him repeat all of Robin Williams' lines, but with less personality. I'll give it to them. They tried their damn best to make the Friend Like Me sequence have the same energy in live action. I mean, their sequence uses so much CGI, it's basically animated too. And still, it pales in comparison to the 2D original, because animation is practically real goddamn magic compared to the constraints of live action. It's so dumb. It's so
That's why anime is so good.
so dumb.
Guards are behind me.
Nearly everything they add is terrible, and everything they rehash is rehashed in a worse way.
The thing is, you know that they added those like extra scenes and stuff just to be like, we added our own little thing in there. You know that's why they did it.
Beauty and the Beast remake is much more bearable, but again, bloated. Adds very little I like, puts in a bunch of things that make no difference, and a whole lot of things that make it worse. Gaston doesn't throw eggs in this version, so how good could it possibly be? It's genuinely admirable how much they try to make these animated characters work in realistic CGI, but they just can't. The Little Mermaid is better than Aladdin, but still so boring and bloated. It adds 2 tiny things I like, puts in things that make no difference, and adds a whole lot of things that make it worse. Notice the pattern here? They add 3 new songs, 2 of which are not just forgettable, but legitimately some of the worst I've ever heard. The one sung by Prince Eric really helps you appreciate musical choreography, because for most of the song, he just drones on while walking down a dirt path. Melissa McCarthy. Alright, even good portrayal of Ursula. Nice job. They seem to try less with the design and animation of the sea creatures, especially during the Under the Sea sequence, which has not a single animal playing a nautical-themed instrument. I find it comforting that this film was a financial disappointment for Disney.
Rip.
No, don't put that sand dollar in your pocket, sir. Not in your pocket. You'll get mixed in with the others and become just a regular sand dollar. Which it is.
Besides parts of
Wait,
Aladdin,
what?
which is amazingly bad in the second half. All these remakes left
You know
my
what
mind.
was an amazing remake? Not really, like parody was freaking Twisted. The musical, the Aladdin musical about Jafar is the best. It's peak. It's cinema, guys. I know it's like a small like stage play, but oh, it's so good. It's so good.
Almost as soon as they entered. Their greatest sin is that they're boring. Artistically, there is nothing to be gained from these, because these aren't just copies, they're bad copies.
I'll show you guys a little bit later.
Wait a second, Solar Sands. There are
Yeah,
good
that
copies
one,
out there,
Savvy.
too. Come on, get out of here. Hey guys, Solar Sands remake Kino Corner here. I know it's easy to say that all remakes are bad. Hollywood is running out of ideas. They can't stop running out of ideas. But you know what? This might be controversial for me to say, but not all remakes are bad. In fact, some of them are great. Would you guess that classic movies like The Maltese Falcon, His Girl Friday, Ben-Hur, The Magnificent Seven, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, The Fly, The Thing, and Sorcerer are all remakes? Heck, even the most badass movie of all time, Michael Mann's Heat, is a remake. I mean, it's a remake of a TV movie he made called LA Takedown, so it was more like he just wanted another go at the story to make it better. And it worked out. Everyone loves Heat, but hardly anyone remembers LA Takedown. I want to take a look at
Actually, the novel I'm writing is actually a remake. It's a remake of an old campaign, but I did it all over again.
beloved movies that are remakes: Scarface and A Fistful of Dollars. Let's start with Scarface. You hear that title and you think of Al Pacino snorting coke and introducing all of his buddies to his little friend. The movie is actually a remake of a Howard Hawks film that released in 1932, which was also called Scarface. The two films share some thematic similarities about the rise and fall of the titular gangster, the famous line, "The world is yours," and so on. But they're basically two very distinct movies. In the 1932 version, Paul Mooney plays as an Italian gangster in early 30s New York. For the 1983 film, its director, Brian De Palma, set it clearly in South Florida in the 1980s. The remake took a look at the 80s drug trade, Cuban immigration, and 1980s life. So what De Palma did was take a 51-year-old film as a baseline, and he entirely reworked it so that it would be modern and culturally relevant. Now, as for Fistful of Dollars, it's a very straight remake of Kurosawa's classic Yojimbo.
Ooh.
It's beat for beat, almost the exact same film, but Leone brought the story into color and traded samurai aesthetics for cowboy aesthetics. It wasn't a sanctioned remake though, as Toho sued the production for royalties and credits. Kurosawa wrote to Leone saying, "Signor Leone, I have just had the chance to see your film. It is a very fine film, but it is my film. Since Japan is a signatory of the Berne Convention on the International Copyright, you must pay me." Does that make A Fistful of Dollars bad? No.
I've never seen it. Have you guys seen it? I've never seen this. I kind of want to watch it.
I love both films. They have the same story, same beats, and some of the same jokes, though a few things were changed. But both films have excellent direction, and Toshiro Mifune and Clint Eastwood are both legendary leading men. They can coexist and work as complementary.
They're both good.
films,
I want to watch it.
A fun double feature. What I'm getting at is this.
I haven't really gotten to see a lot of Westerns, honestly. It's like one genre I kind of missed out on. I'd like to watch a lot more of them. If you guys can recommend good ones for me, like in Discord.
Remakes can be good, but maybe they're often not. They're good or even great when the people making them love the source material and want to put their own spin on it. Sometimes there are films that have great ideas in them, but were just executed poorly. Those are great films to remake because a good filmmaker can see where the original went wrong and make something great out of it. However, remakes are not good when it's a person or a studio who just wants to make a cheap buck by profiting off of people's nostalgia. If the intention is soulless, then the result is soulless.
When I first saw the CGI version of Peter Cushing's Grand Moff Tarkin show up in Rogue One, the worst of my feelings were that I could tell it was CGI. These days, I fear it was the beginning of something much more insidious. While using old footage and computer manipulation to create scenes using the likeness of a long-dead actor has been tried as far back as 2004, it has become more and more commonplace to simulate the likenesses of long-deceased actors using CGI and AI, and puppet them around in movies. Harold Ramis, who played Egon Spangler in the original Ghostbusters, shows up in Ghostbusters Afterlife as a ghost. Christopher Reeve shows up in that awful Flash movie as a horribly uncanny abomination, along with half a dozen or so actors, some dead, some still alive, including George Reeves, who, killed himself. Just recently, Ian Holmes' likeness was used in multiple scenes in Alien Romulus as another android. The director, Fede Alvarez, says he reached out to the widow of Ian Holm and received authorization from the rest of his family. Ian Holmes' widow felt he would have loved it. Besides the fact she could not possibly know that for certain, it kind of doesn't matter to me that Ian Holmes' wife and family approved of it. That's better than them not approving of it, but my stance on this as a moral issue is that we should not be puppeting around the face and voice of a dead person as if they were still alive for our entertainment. Especially
that is kind of weird
when it is entirely avoidable. Nothing about the existence of Romulus required Ian Holmes' likeness.
Yeah, it's a little bit different when like it's like necessary, right, for the story to be good. Like there's like you really need the character back where like the actor has passed already, but you really need that character back. I can kind of see if it's like a small thing that really moves the plot forward, but if it's like just to add it, that's kind of weird.
The android could have been anyone, just a random actor. Fede Alvarez defends himself, saying it was a genuine attempt to honor him. But there's so much money at stake with these kinds of films, I just don't believe that. The fact that anyone excuses this, and that it's not an instant reason to avoid this film, astonishes me. It's one thing to use tricks of editing or even a CGI model, in the case that an actor dies while making a film to complete their scenes.
Yep.
It's quite another to bring an actor back from the dead when it is entirely avoidable. Let's face it, a cheap thrill of nostalgia.
Yep.
I find it absolutely repulsive. To be clear, it wouldn't matter if these uncanny recreations looked super convincing, and it wouldn't matter if they got permission.
But like half of this stuff that they're showing, I haven't even seen it. Like I feel like I haven't. It's like I feel like at some point I just like started to get fed up with the movies. I was just like, I'm just gonna watch anime from now on.
Everyone in the actors' families for each of these cameos. If they got consent from the living person before they died to do something like this, while that
thanks for the sub, astronomy. Thank you.
That would be better.
Thank you.
I would still oppose it artistically. There are more subtle and tasteful ways to honor a dead actor. Literally having them show up as some sort of action figure just speaks to a lack of imagination. Creating projects with the intention of using a long dead actor is not just tacky, but sociopathic. This isn't simply playing archival footage of an actor. This isn't simply an actor playing another dead actor, who, while is imitating a dead person, can easily be separated from the real person who once existed. This is a trick of digital necromancy, an attempt to bring back the living likeness and aura
Digital
of a once
necromancers.
real person. It's not just a copy, it's a bad copy. It is fundamentally a refusal of death and a denial of the sacredness of death. In modern cinema, nothing is allowed to die. No franchise can simply end. If it does end, it must go out kicking and screaming. No once living actor can rest if they can be resurrected for profit later down the line. If the film industry can't stop themselves from using AI to resurrect the dead, I guarantee it is salivating at the thought of being able to use AI in every part of filmmaking. They tried to do it with the intro to Secret Invasion. Even with the death of James Earl Jones, I'm certain the only thing
he just died, right?
executives' minds is, do we recreate his voice with AI? Because even
The
though
Matrix
Darth
had
Vader's
more
story
than
has
one
been
movie
complete
and
for
Animatrix.
decades, they
What?
have
Matrix had more than one movie. Yeah, there was. Oh,
to bring him back.
I see.
He's too popular.
honestly, I don't know. I didn't. Obviously, the first Matrix was like the best one. I was okay with it. The other two.
They have no self-control. They cannot help themselves. Christ, is there going to be a point we don't get any new actors anymore because of AI? The whole system is based on intellectual properties, with a significantly weakened star-based system, which doesn't allow interesting scripts to succeed without being attached to an IP. Are we seriously going to resurrect actors just to play the same stale characters? This is why I call this the worst era in film history. There's been periods of remakes and sequels in movie history, but I have never seen anything like this before. People have to stop paying for these movies if you want things to change. I tend to avoid these movies.
It's rough though, because a lot of people still want to be entertained. You know, like all of these big studios, they have the resources, the money to like make whatever they want, and all of that has been hijacked by creatively bankrupt people, and people still want to be entertained because, you know, life is hard, right? So people want entertainment. People haven't discovered things like games and anime and streams, I guess. Not mainstream, you know?
Hear about them, I consistently hear bad things. And once these movies have been out for a few weeks, no one talks about them.
Most normies like don't actually even know anything about video games or anime. Like as mainstream as like you think anime is, like as we think it is, things like things like anime, things like fan works, things like web series, all of those things. Most people don't know about it. Like your average person on the street does not know anything about this world. It's just us.
Kung Fu Panda 4
This is all they
was
have.
the 8th highest grossing film in the US this year. When was the last time someone talked about it? Wonka made a ton of money last year. When was the last time you saw someone mention that movie?
I kind of want to watch it just for the actor.
There was a live-action Avatar remake on Netflix this year. I completely forgot that existed. Do you know that a Pinocchio remake came out?
There was a Pinocchio remake? What?
Another Ghostbusters film came out this year. Did you know that?
I didn't.
On the other hand, when Dune Part 2 was released, there was a solid month of very popular.
Yup, I heard about Dune. I didn't know about the new Ghostbusters. I didn't know about the new Pinocchio, but I did know about Dune because everybody was talking about it.
Popular memes about it. And yes, it is a remake, but of a book series and a film that is famously not considered the most perfect film of the 80s. And it also has the advantage of being good. I believe these films will have no cultural impact. That's the silver lining to all of this. They have no staying power. Disney has a finite amount of good films they can remake in their backlog.
To run it out.
Even if they remake every single one of them, they will run out. And when they run out, they will be screwed. We saw them try and make an original project again, and it was terrible. The music in a Disney musical was bad. Can you believe that?
Holy crap.
They have forgotten how to make good movies. When people say that if you keep complaining about all these movies, all these Star Wars projects, all these sequels and remakes and films based off other properties, maybe you won't get any more, as if the audience was some sort of misbehaving child.
Oh my god.
They fail to realize I would rather have no films than an abundance of films that cannibalize
so
our culture.
true.
These studio films are products.
That just means like more room for like anime in the movie theater, you know? I watch anime at the movie theater. Sometimes they have it.
And over and over.
Ghibli Fest was freaking sick. You got to watch Ghibli Fest, like I think it was last year, had live action theatrical stage play of Spirited Away, and it was fucking sick. It was really nice. I was like, what the hell? Like it looked like actually like so good.
Over again.
You would think it'd be so hard to do Spirited Away
than what we had before. Yes, I want these films to fail. I want them to fail because they have given me no reason to wish for their success. But if it's the case that these kinds of films continue to be successful, then I see a dark future ahead, where the same handful of franchises are restarted.
The snake sucking himself off.
Over and over.
Forever.
And billions of dollars are spent not on...
This is literally Hollywood right here. This is like perfect. It's like Hollywood sucking its own dick until it dies. Until it chokes and dies.
Artists trying to move us into the future, but on trying to resurrect the past. We will not only see the same ideas on the big screen again, but also the same faces.
I love documentaries, man. This was great. Here, I'll link you guys the video so you guys can check it out. Give it a like.